on stage Mr. Saurabh Kumar, the head of the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet. Big round of applause, sir. Mr. Kumar, thank you very much, sir. It's been a pleasure with us also to discuss the innovative approaches to sustainable energy and their potential to transform communities. So we ask you to please join us on stage. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. And also, when it comes to an environmentalist, Mr. Kumar has been with the Union Ministry of Power for close to 15 years and has been leading Energy Efficiency Services Limited in successfully implementing energy efficiency projects such as Ujala Street Lighting National Program, Municipal Energy Efficient Program, and also the Agricultural Demand Side Management Program. Let's welcome Mr. Saurabh Kumar.
All right. And I'm going to request our colleague, Sneha Koshi, to please join us on stage to spearhead this next discussion. Sneha, it's a pleasure to have you with us. We ask that the floor is yours, and over to you. Keep the applause coming, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Sneha, take it over.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. In fact, sir, what a great day to be talking about this, because look at the disaster outside, literally. Personally, this has been the worst commute for me to reach this venue. One end to the other, it's taken, say, 3.5 hours to reach this place. We may call this just a commuter's nightmare. It really isn't. It's only going to worsen as we see some stark changes in our environment, in our climate. We've had the worst of floods. We've had the worst of heat waves. It's right there staring at all of us. But the truth is, while all of us are going to be impacted, there are some who are going to be impacted the worst. Let me just start with, could you just give us examples of what's working the best? Because, you know, as journalists, as ordinary people, it's so easy to see what's not working. But there's a lot that's happening when it comes to clean energy, green energy. If you have to look back over, just say, not a very long time, say a year or two, would you share with us some of the remarkable things that you have seen work on the ground, take shape on a ground that was not thought of, say, a decade back?
First of all, thank you for inviting me, Nadi. And before I come to your question, and I will answer that question, let's understand what India stands today. I mean, we have heard in the last two sessions where we are headed towards, and we are all witness to extreme weather. But what is the opportunity India has? India has said that we will become a developed nation by 2047. Now, if you look at all the development trajectories of any developed country, including China, they have used cheap fossil fuels to develop themselves, because energy is heart of economic development. We have to find a new way of doing so, something which has never been done by any country, any region before. That's the excitement, that's the leadership that India has. Coming to your specific question of what has worked and will work, is, according to me, the biggest energy transition program anywhere in the world. That was announced by the Honorable Prime Minister about 4 months ago, which is the National Solar Rooftop Program. What it does, it's going to empower 10 million people with cheap, sustainable, reliable solar energy. And it is targeted largely towards 3 kilowatt users and lower, so it is looking at the bottom of the pyramid. Yet again, there will always be an issue of debate between what economic development means and what how do we have the concerns of climate change. I'll give you an example. Only 7% of households in India have an air conditioner. Now, this will increase for sure. Maybe about 3% households own a car. So I think what is needed is not to say that we will do either or, but how do we nudge sustainable development? How do we nudge sustainable transport? And I think not just the country, the entire stakeholders are doing a great job in nudging this country towards a path which no one has done before. And this is a path that will then lead every other developing country that aspires to be a developed country to follow that path.
Absolutely. In fact, if you compare today to say a decade back, look at the headlines today. We see flash floods in Sikkim repeatedly, span of 8 months. Every few months or every few years, every other year, in fact, we are seeing unprecedented rainfall. You spoke about India, where India is. You have green technology, you have a green economy, and then you have people's aspirations. Can these three be taken together?
It has to be. There is no choice. I mean, in fact, in the development model that we have all seen how US has developed, Europe, all these three were different. And that's why we have come to the problem that we have. And therefore, the communities, the sustainability has to be at the heart of everything, economic development. And therefore, what I would feel is that this country needs a far more integrated policy and planning. For instance, when we talk about energy transitions, just to give you at the central government level, this involves 18 different ministries because you have to transition not just the coal sector to renewables, but you have to equally take the industrial sector, the cement plants, away from coal and gas to something else. Similarly, your transport has to go. Therefore, you need an integrated approach to planning, policies, regulations. And what I think is the need of the hour is a kind of a high-powered energy transitions commission that this country should have precisely for this integrated approach towards planning, which takes into account what is the need of a consumer. How do you make sure that the consumer of energy is able to walk the talk that all of us want everyone to do so?
It's always said that there are two Indias. So while we are saying that every household has got electricity, should get electricity, there's no exception to that. It's not accepted at all. There's another part of India which says power demand is unprecedented. It's going across unprecedented levels. We're not able to meet it. You go through seasons of power cuts despite promises of otherwise. But my question is, how can innovation bridge this gap between two Indias and between what we have and we don't seem to have?
Yeah, so I think innovation really lies at the heart of everything, and innovation doesn't necessarily only mean to me a new technical innovation. And I'll give you a simple example of a policy innovation that was done in this country about 14, 15 years ago. If you recollect, in 2010-11, the country never had more than a 500 megawatt of solar energy. And the tariffs were about 18 rupees per unit. What was the policy innovation done? Is to overcome what is the reason why people are not investing in a sector like power, is because your distribution companies are in a very bad financial state. And therefore, if I were to make a 25-year investment in a renewable energy plant, I don't know if I'll get paid for that long. Government of India set up what is called the Solar Energy Corporation of India. It said that if the distribution utilities do not pay, what we will do is that we will deduct the money from the state government's accounts in RBI and give it to the developer. Look what has happened in the last 10 years. We have a capacity of 80 gigawatts. Our tariffs are lowest in the world, from 18 rupees per unit to about 2.5 rupees per unit. So what were you able to do? You were able to solve the problems using a policy innovation. I think a lot more of it needs to be done across sectors, which will then drive technical innovations at the grassroots. And let me also give you something which I think the country has to work at the grassroots level, is agriculture consumption. As you all know, about 20% of electricity goes into agriculture. And agriculture consumption is free virtually everywhere in the country, which means the total subsidy burden that the state governments have to put is about 120,000 crores. Now, if you convert everything to solar, which is possible, 150 gigawatts of solar can come in at the village level. You only need 4 months of supply for agriculture. Rest of it can be used to power the communities, and they get sustainable and much better power supply so I think these are the things that need to be put together. And I have great respect for the innovation of communities and people in this country. I think what needs to be done, as I said, if we have an integrated approach to planning, we will drive innovation, both policy, technical, and financial innovation.
So could you give us a sense of what's the level of urgency? Because we speak so much about this. Over the last few years, this is there in the mainstream narrative as well. There's discourses after discourses as well. But when it comes to action, when it comes to implementation, what's the sense of urgency?
Look, the urgency, I think we heard the last panel. There is no doubt that it had to be done day before yesterday, not even yesterday. But let's be realistic. If India is at a level where about 70% of energy comes from fossil fuels, that is not going to go away in a hurry. There will be a transition towards a net zero future, which means there will be a peak. Our fossil fuels use may actually increase before it starts to go down. And the reason is that alternate technologies, whether it is solar, wind, or upcoming ones like hydrogen, first of all, solar and wind are intermittent. You cannot run a hotel like this or a city like Delhi or Mumbai using solar energy. You need a stable power. So what are the candidates for stable power? It's nuclear. India does not have fuel as far as to run nuclear. And therefore, either you wait for battery prices to fall, that's when you can make solar and wind reliable. Otherwise, the cost of transition will be very, very high. We have to be mindful of the fact that the cost of transition and just to give you a sense why I'm saying this, if you look at the per capita, the percentage of our per capita income that we spend on energy is about 14%. Look at OECD countries and US, it's less than 3%. And remember, even US and Europe, large part of it is driven by fossil fuel. Now, if at this stage, when I don't have a trajectory of a low-cost, affordable, clean energy, if I add to the fact that no, you have to only use renewable energy with batteries, my 14% may become 20-25%. So therefore, it's a much more calibrated approach that we need when it comes to energy transition. And I think the government of India and has been, if you look at all the other G20 countries or even more, I think we have the most ambitious plan moving ahead. And it's not just a plan on the paper. The plan is actually working on the ground itself.
That I'm sure is a big relief to hear itself. But when you talk about India and moving ahead in this direction, there are some states that are doing some very noteworthy work. They are really pushing forward to be able to get results in this particular area. Do you want to speak possibly about some of the best practices that India has at this point?
Yeah, I think let's start with this city itself, Delhi. And if you see, Delhi has become the second largest city in the world, having the second largest fleet of electric buses in the world in the last 2 or 3 months. Moving forward in the next 1 year, this would become the largest electric buses fleet anywhere in the world. So this is the best practice, and they have done this using a very innovative approach towards not using government money, but using procuring bus as a service. So that's number one. Number two, look at Maharashtra. Maharashtra and Rajasthan both have taken up solarization of agriculture feeders in a very massive way. And that's really not just reducing their overall cost to the DISCOM, but it has a massive social benefit to the farmers. Otherwise, I'm sure you know, most of the distribution companies provide electricity for water pumping to farmers during the night time. But when you solarize agriculture, you start to get electricity during the day. So there are several good practices that are there elsewhere in the country, and that's the reason why I'm suggesting that we have an Energy Transitions Commission where a large-scale consensus should be there on how do you replicate these best practices, how do you do some kind of a rating of states on energy transition, just to motivate them to move ahead. I think we have seen this in the Swachh Bharat ratings, how municipal corporations are actually competing against each other to become better. We need a similar indices for energy transitions, and how do we push the envelope? And I'm sure the new dispensation that we have will take us closer to that.
Very interesting. In fact, one of the panelists who spoke here earlier, I was reading up about what he says. One of the words he has used earlier is homo stupidus. So with what you are saying, I think, has the transition really begun, in the sense that we're not really just focusing on a I, me, myself, urban-centric approach, but are we, when it comes down to doing, are we able to reach across Indian communities, and not just human communities, as well as others, as the previous panelists also was speaking about, just the last minute? Do you see India move forward in the right direction?
Absolutely, and I'll give you an example that we were very proud to be associated with. You must have heard of SEWA. SEWA is this largest women's self-help group and there is a large number of salt pane workers who are in the coastal part of Gujarat. We are supporting them to use renewable energy, solar panels, to basically dry the salt, and the impact has been amazing. And again, there are about maybe 1 million women in that self-help group. So the word that it spreads around is just tremendous. And I think there are several initiatives like this, community-based, which gives me a lot of hope that we are on the right track.
All
yes,
right.
yes, we all will face the kind of challenges that you just described in the morning. But I'm a huge optimist that we are possibly going towards the hump.
Good to hear that. Thank you very much, Mr. Saurabh Kumar. It's been great talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Mr. Saurabh Kumar. And Sneha, I ask that you please remain on stage for a few moments longer. That was, of course, an inspiring back and forth. And sir, all of your incredible work at the grassroots level is driving groundbreaking change. That deserves of applause. And Sneha, if I could ask that, yes, you please present the certificate to sir, wherein he can track the location of his trees real time. Again, this is courtesy of Sankalp Taru Foundation and Times Network, and the very special initiative to plant 1,000 trees in Chennai.